The ongoing conflict in Ukraine and Russia has escalated into a complex and multi-dimensional war, with Ukraine increasingly taking the fight into Russian territory, and it marks a significant shift from the initial phase of the war where Russia primarily acted as the aggressor and Ukraine was defending its territory. The move to the invasion of Kursk, combined with the strategic drone strikes on key Russian targets, including Moscow and oil dumps, has placed around Rostov, has placed Russia on the defensive in a way that it hasn't experienced since the early days of the conflict, and certainly hasn't experienced a land invasion since the 1940s. Ukraine's efforts to intensify its offensive operations, including the cross-border incursions further into the Kursk territory, demonstrates a bold and unprecedented approach. And the advance onto Russian soil has included not only the ground incursions, but also the use of advanced weaponry such as the US-made GBU-39 bomb to strike at Russian command posts, and the capture of Russian soldiers, most of them conscripts, eager to be taken prisoner during these incursions, has allowed Ukraine to bolster its exchange fund, potentially enabling future prisoner swaps of significant magnitude and significant importance. An aspect of Ukraine's strategy has been the use of these drones to target critical Russian infrastructure, expensive drones. On August the 21st, Ukrainian intelligence chief Kirilo Budanov confirmed that Ukraine had conducted multiple drone operations targeting Ostafyevo airport in Moscow and Milarevo air base in the Rostov region. And while the Ostafyevo attack was intended perhaps as a diversion, the strike on Milarevo, the home to the advanced Russian fighter jets like the Su-30 SM and the Su-35, was aimed at weakening Russia's air capabilities near the Ukrainian border. This bifurcate war response by Ukraine is textbook, really, but it's imaginative textbook. It's reading the rules and reading the gaming, doing with the multiple targets and keeping the enemy engaged in multiple directions. And yet Putin is off down in Chechnya watching Kadyrov's boy shoot targets with his with his own ear protectors, supported in a rather strange way so that he doesn't disrupt the hair which has been so carefully plastered on to his doppelganger. There's an element of madness in all of this. But then if Putin is no longer around to actually call the shots, what can he do except for parade like some sort of shop dummy? The drone attacks have been limited to military installations, which is a marked difference to Russia's attacks in the Sumy region, killing 2 people. Ukrainian drones have also struck the Savasleika base near Nizhny Novgorod, damaging and destroying several Russian aircraft, and this demonstrates Ukraine's capacity to disrupt Russian air operations. If you start looking at it from a distance, the Ukrainian plan is to disrupt air traffic and to strike at Russia's military bases that have an effect far beyond the immediate conflict zone. Furthermore, Ukraine's recent drone assault on Moscow was described as one of the largest since the war began, highlighting a shift in Ukrainian tactics towards bringing the war to Russia's heartland. If Ukraine can do this, that's how it goes. And the political and the propaganda aspect of Ukraine's response is tremendous. Russia has mounted a series of counterattacks, particularly in eastern Ukrainian towns, like, for example, in Pokrovsk, a strategic target for Moscow. Russian forces launched 50 attacks on this area, reflecting the determination to regain momentum in the conflict. But really, Russia should be moving soldiers across, but it can't because it doesn't have enough. So you think, oh yes, Russia's got this huge population. Well, yes, but it doesn't have enough uniforms for so many soldiers, and so many have been killed. And it's already lost a significant proportion of its professional soldiers. And Putin has pulled back a lot of those professional troops to guard his own palaces and to guard key structures across Russia. This turns an offensive army into a defensive army for Russia. Very strange. And it's the conscripts who are sent forward to challenge the Ukrainian troops. Despite these efforts, Russia's ability to effectively counter Ukrainian advances, therefore, has been increasingly questioned, despite these efforts to attack and to try and regain the ground. Russia's defences have been tested by Ukrainian attacks on logistical and industrial targets. For instance, the Ukrainian aerial attack on a Russian ferry in the southern part of Kafkas, near Crimea, resulted in the sinking of a vessel which was carrying fuel tanks, lots of bangs. This not only disrupted the Russian supply lines, but it also showcased Ukraine's ability to strike deep into Russian-controlled territory. And in all these developments, in the middle of all of this, the Russian President Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin has been to appear detached. Despite the escalation, there he is in Chechnya, observing Ramzan Kadyrov's son engaged in target practice. Bang, bang, bang. A stark contrast to the severity of the situation on the front lines. And this indolence raises questions about his leadership, his hair, the effectiveness of Russia's command structure during this critical phase in the war. But what else can he do except parade around? Because he has no effective command at all, because the real Putin is in the fridge. And the Putin who is on display is a very good simulacrum, a very good doppelganger, a very good alternative visually. But he is just a stooge, a model, an image. He can do nothing except for maintain his hair. And I mean, he is an automaton, something out of the 17th century. Wind him up, put him down, and make him go. And Putin has accused Ukraine of attempting to strike the Kursk nuclear power plant, but without substantial evidence, and such accusations seem designed to escalate fears and potentially justify harsher retaliatory measures against Ukraine. That's the only point. Oh, you're attacking our power plants. We can send missiles against key targets in Ukraine and cause key damage to Ukrainian civilians. For the most part, the Russian civilians who have been caught in the Ukrainian advance have welcomed it or have fled, and the number of casualties seems to be, thankfully, quite light. But the international community, particularly the International Atomic Energy Agency, remains vigilant about threats to nuclear facilities in the region, and the Zaphorizhzha power plant, which is controlled by Russia, is the one that is causing anxiety. Ukraine's advance into Russian territories, effective use of drone strikes, has significantly shifted the dynamics of the conflict, and Russia's attempt to respond has been met with mixed success, and it is extraordinary how slowly Russia is grinding forward. It's still pushing into the south of Ukraine, and I suppose Ukraine's plan was that the troops from the south would be moved up to the north, freeing the south for an offensive. But that hasn't happened. So from that point of view, maybe Putin has called Zelensky's bluff. But while Putin focuses on the domestic political theatre, domestic propaganda, rather than the military crisis, he signals a potential disconnect in Russia's war strategy, and the conflict appears to be entering a new phase where Ukraine's ability to project power beyond its borders and increasingly challenge Russia's military and political stability becomes the order of the day. The coming weeks and months will be crucial in determining whether Ukraine can sustain its momentum against Russia and how Russia will adapt to meet or avoid these new challenges.